Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we're recording live from apartment 157, discussing the 2002 horror film 28 Days Later. This film was directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. It was well received, even earning a spot at number 7 for Bloody Disgusting's 20 must-see horror films of the decade. Bloody Disgusting went on to call it not only a zombie movie, but a political allegory and a humanist drama. 28 Days Later is often credited with reanimating, no pun intended, the zombie genre. After this film came modern zombie genre staples like the Dawn of the Dead remake, Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, and even books like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies and World War Z. Although not technically a zombie film itself, 28 Days Later is nonetheless undeniably important to the genre. So what did you guys think of 28 Days Later the first time you saw it?
I remember watching this movie and really enjoying it. And you can clearly tell by watching the movie that it's old, like the way it is. But I think it gives charm to the movie. It's like I feel like it looks like it's supposed to. There is nudity in the movie.
There is.
But I don't think it's tasteless. I mean, it's...
No?
It's a very odd, not necessary, but not tasteless nudity.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be there, but there, so it's okay.
I guess, yeah.
It's
we gotta live with it.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the movie a lot. It was, I guess, they are zombies? Are they not zombies? Or
I was going to ask you guys about that because there is a massive debate about whether or not this is a zombie film.
I think it still is a zombie film, but if you really want to get down to it and get technical, the people in this film are not reanimated dead people. So no, they're not zombies. You have to die and come back to be a zombie.
I agree, but at the same time, I think about the old, borderline racist voodoo shit in the 30s and those movies and stuff where they were just kind of put under a spell and it's like, oh, they're zombies.
Right.
So I'm like, if a spell can do it, I think it's a zombie film. I think they're zombies.
That's a point. I definitely consider this a zombie film, but there's the people that push their glasses up their noses and hit you with the actually. And
I didn't see them die. That's interesting.
Oh, I guess I fell asleep during that part. It's like, no, we get it, but to
excuse me, Professor.
The heart of this film, I think, it's a zombie film.
The first time I watched it, I remember just being kind of blown away by it and thinking that it was absolutely horrifying. And I think that goes in with what JP was saying about the way that it looks.
Yeah.
It was shot, a lot of it, on digital cameras. And so it has this weird motion. It's got odd...
It's like gritty.
Yes. It's grungy and but it fits it so well.
Yeah.
But it also makes you feel like you're there because there's a lot of claustrophobia.
Definitely.
And this came out, 2002?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 11 years old getting the shit scared out of me by probably, arguably, one of the more horrifying zombie films I've ever seen. And that says a lot about humanity.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, I'm a sucker for a deeper message hidden inside my horror movies. It's like putting a pill in a piece of cheese.
Eat it up.
Yeah, I love it.
I loved it as well. I mean, I don't know anybody who has seen this and didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But to piggyback on what you said, T, about the humanity of it, that's what always really got me about it.
Yeah.
And it's maybe unpopular, and the man himself denies it, but I think that Robert Kirkman of The Walking Dead was heavily influenced, had to be heavily influenced by this.
100%.
Although he is quoted in saying during an interview when somebody was like, okay, so can we talk about the 20 Days Later thing? He says that this film was released in June of 2003, and that the first issue of The Walking Dead was released in October of 2003. And they just happened to watch 28 Days Later a week before the first issue came out. And they were like, nobody's gonna put this together. And then people did, and he was mad because it was all original. It was a coincidence.
Rob Zombie didn't watch Texas Chainsaw.
Not at all. I feel like this...
Never seen it.
No, this movie is so great. But you want to talk about waking up from a coma and this is happening to the world.
Now, I will say,
undeniable.
I do know that there are some similarities between 28 Days Later and I guess a book that came out that was made into a film in the 60s.
Yeah, yes.
And so, I mean, it's almost like this was an homage to that, but they admit it. I think that's the thing that's where you...
That always gets me,
Yeah.
yeah.
If it is an homage, say it.
Yeah, just say that, hey, look, I was influenced by this, whatever. Don't just, no.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
made that up by myself.
What's
No, you
28 days
didn't.
later? I don't
I
even
don't know.
right.
You
But-
mean next month?
And my thing is, and Mr. Kirkman, if you're listening, I'm sorry, don't sue me. But
No. And we enjoy your work.
I do think it was influenced. My point that I wanted to make was I loved The Walking Dead. Even before the show, I loved the graphic novels.
Right.
I would get every issue when it came out. I mean, obsessed with it. Then I watched the show. Show's not good anymore, but it used to be. But what was so great about The Walking Dead was kind of born here. That it's almost, we don't need to be afraid of the zombies. We need to be afraid of each other. And
Yes.
that, to me, is what makes this movie so special. It really takes the genre to a new level for me.
No, I agree. And the other thing is that why I consider it a zombie film is how many shows, how many films pretty much use this model.
Oh, yeah.
It's a virus. It's,
Yeah.
more something
Yeah,
along
yeah.
those lines. And also, when you look at the Dawn of the Dead remake, there's way more of 28 Days Later in the Dawn of the Dead remake than the original Dawn of the Dead film.
yes.
So it's like,
funny.
this
Definitely.
is a zombie film.
Yeah. Now, before we infect this film with rage, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's free the chimps. So the film opens on numerous videos of people running, screaming, fighting, protesting, rioting. There's images of police brutality, war, fire.
The film is set in 2020.
In 2020, we pan out and see that everything is playing out on several TV screens. A chimp's head is hooked up to like electrodes, I guess.
Are they trying to see what makes the monkey tick? Excuse me, a chimp. I'm sorry. I guess
Watch them
there's a
out.
difference. I apologize.
I think they're seeing how the brain reacts to the images.
So it's like a Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But we pan over to reveal through a surveillance monitor that we're at the Cambridge Primate Research Center, which doesn't sound good.
No.
The camera is quickly blocked by a person wearing a ski mask, and we see that there are 3 activists. Well-meaning activists. I
Yes.
want to point that out. They swipe a card to get into the room with the chimps. And the chimps are all in these very small containers. Like, they can't even stand up all the way, and they are not happy.
And who would be?
Yeah.
No, yeah. They're screeching, they're hitting the walls, they're pacing around. But the activists are looking around and taking pictures. And they finally, in the back, reach that first chimp that was hooked up and, Clockwork Oranging it. And they're intent on freeing the chimps. There's 2 men and 1 woman. And all's going well until a researcher in a lab coat walks in on them. He runs to the phone immediately and tries to call security. But one of the activists stop him, and they basically just tell him to shut up. The researcher is begging them to stop, saying that the chimps are infected and they're highly contagious. Now, at that, I'd be like,
That's
say
it.
what now?
Yeah.
And can I just ask, what is the end game here? Like, we rescue these chimps and then what? Take them to our apartment and just have like a sitcom situation, just hanging out with a bunch of chimps? Like, or do you release them to the wild? Like, I don't understand what this...
I don't know that they thought that far ahead.
There's like, we just need to get these chimps out of here.
I get it was for a good cause, but like shit like this, like it used to happen all the time. Or like, I know they did tests and stuff on animals, but one of those chimps is like cut open. Like it's when they pass by.
Oh, you're right.
yeah,
He's like,
one
yeah.
of them is like cut
See,
open.
So then
like, what are they doing in there? Like,
and
what
again, it's you're thinking, of course, the activists are doing the right thing.
And they are. I mean, that's...
well, I'm sure they had good intentions.
Yeah.
of
but-
course, like I said.
The road to hell.
Yeah, what's it paved with? But, and again, these types of facilities are horrible, deplorable. These animals should be let go.
Yes.
But at the words infected and highly contagious, maybe pause.
Yeah.
Listen to the experts,
Yeah.
as we have
Exactly.
said before.
Why?
So the activists demand to know what they're infected with. And the researcher kind of explains by saying to cure something, they first have to understand how it works. And the chimps have been given an inhibitor and, in essence, infected with rage.
Now, when he drops that word rage, I'm done.
Yeah, no.
I don't, I was like, well, I guess
they're what now?
We'll go rescue some rabbits from fucking L'Oreal or whatever. I don't know. Don't sue. It was a joke. I don't know. I did read that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were kind of trying to think of a way to make the movie feel more modern. And so when we talk about rage, it's not your standard typical zombie eat a brain situation.
No, for sure.
Rage is something that is a symptom of some viruses. And so it makes it more, for me anyway, it makes it much more scarier.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
absolutely.
oh, it's a viral thing. It's not a matter of, oh, I just don't have to get bitten by that guy. There's a virus.
Yes.
That's much more terrifying.
Believable.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And scarier.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, that
100%.
So instead of listening, one activist holds the researcher down, and the researcher begs them to stop as they start trying to open one of the cages.
It is funny, though, because once they get their hands on the researcher after he tries to call, one of the chimps is clapping, like, get his ass.
Yeah, he does.
He is so into it. Well, I wonder.
bet he's happy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck that guy.
I've been wanting to do that to Doug all fucking week.
The researcher says that their blood and saliva are infected, and just one bite, but suddenly the activists get the cage open and the chimp runs out. This dude was ready to go.
Yeah.
But upon its release, the chimp immediately tackles the woman activist and just starts, it looks like chewing at her throat.
Yeah. And then her buddy loses all of his activism and just starts beating the shit out of the chimp. He's like, fuck these chimps. Like, what?
He does, and the woman starts screaming that she's burning. She rolls over and just projectile vomits blood.
Fast transmission.
Bad. Oh, immediate, yeah. The researcher says that they have to kill the woman just as she turns and vomits blood into the face of the activist. She twitches and starts making these horrible sounds as the researcher gets a stool and is like prepared to, I guess, beat her to death.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean,
Wouldn't you if your buddy just turned into some crazy thing and spit on you and motherfucker?
Well, the researcher, I feel bad for him because if I recall, he just came in there with a cup of coffee.
He did.
Yeah, he was.
He's like, well, I guess it's my
He's
shift.
on the night shift.
Yeah. Now he's got to deal with all this. I'd be grabbing stools too.
But before the researcher can get her, we zoom in on her face and her eyes are just bright red, and she attacks the researcher. The chimps do look very pleased at this, and they're banging on their cages. My question, though, is where did the third activist go? The one that was holding the researcher down.
You probably got the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have.
I would.
But we get a card at this point that says 28 days later. The next thing we see is a close-up on an eye opening. It's a man in a hospital bed, and he, as we said before, is completely naked and hooked up to machines. This is Jim, played by Cillian Murphy. He sits up and looks around, unhooking himself from his IV. Now, real quick, this is the first thing I ever saw Cillian Murphy in, and he is just fantastic.
Yes. I would argue, probably one of his generation's most underrated actors.
Definitely. I read that this role was supposed to be played by Ewan McGregor, who I also love.
And that makes sense because they worked on Trainspotting together, Danny Boyle.
And I guess they had something of a falling out because when Danny Boyle made The Beach, he was supposed to give the lead role to Ewan McGregor and it kind of turned around and gave it to Leonardo DiCaprio. And so Ewan McGregor was salty and he's like, well, I'm not going to do 28 Days Later then.
Jeez,
so
man.
It went to Cillian Murphy, which is funny because he's Irish and Jim is written to be British. And so I read that his British accent was so bad in this movie that he had to go back and re-record lines. He was like, you can just be Irish. Like, there's a lot of Irish immigrants here. Just be Irish. Yeah. But
that's hilarious.
I just wanted to sidebar because I really love Cillian Murphy. And he's great in everything. Mm-hmm. And in this, he is just... wow.
Yeah. But, no, I agree. I love that dude.
Peaky Blinders, man.
That and he was in Red Eye. That was a good movie too.
Yeah. He's just
Red Eye
great.
is underrated.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
He was also the Scarecrow.
Yes, he was Scarecrow. That's right. I thought he did a good job as Scarecrow.
I agree. He's great in everything.
Yeah.
Back to the movie though. Jim calls out hello and gets no answer, but he finds a key on the floor and lets himself out of his room. Now, it was great of whoever left the key. Otherwise, what would he have done? But like, you couldn't leave a note or
A hospital gown.
A gown.
Yeah, so you left him there naked,
Yeah.
and then closed the door and slid the key under. What happened before that?
Was it Jigsaw?
Check the toilet. Check the toilet.
Follow your heart.
So the next thing we see is Jim wearing scrubs, wandering around the empty hospital and bandaging his arm. Now, the hospital is not only empty, but it is in complete disarray. Like, bad stuff happened here. He goes to a row of payphones, and they're all off the hook. He tries them all. Nothing. He yells, hello. Nothing.
Two things. One, if you see on the side on the door, it says, don't open, rage inside. No, I'm just kidding. But
Jim's a cop.
yes. The other thing about this is that this is when I first noticed the interesting cinematography of this movie with this gritty, almost hazy aesthetic once he's walking through the hospital.
It's almost dreamlike.
Yes. That is very fair. A horrible dream.
Yeah.
To be sure.
It's almost nightmare-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Jim comes upon a broken soda machine and guzzles down a Pepsi and then takes a few sodas with him inside a plastic shopping bag.
Very odd product placement here.
We see it more later.
Yeah, he drinks. He's like, this is refreshing.
Well,
He doesn't.
I do though like that they did this because I feel like if this was any other movie, they would have just like kicked the can, or they would have he's thirsty.
He's
like
thirsty.
he
Just
lets
woke
you know.
up.
Yeah.
But specifically Pepsi.
Well, I mean, it's there. Why not drink it?
The next shot is this beautiful aerial shot of him outside looking very small and very alone. We get a nice skyline shot of a completely still city with boats still in the water. Jim is walking down an empty and littered street, still calling out hello. And it's a bunch of these sad and isolating shots of him just wandering alone in the city.
It is so fantastic. The interesting thing about this is I saw on Cinefix that they originally had scenes filmed in the hospital and on these streets, and they were littered with dead bodies. But they decided to do this more isolated, just lonely cityscapes. It's much more effective to me.
It sounds weird that it sounds weird that it's scarier without the dead bodies.
Yes.
No,
but it is scarier without, because you have what the fuck is happening?
Well, if there's dead bodies, then something happened,
Right.
True.
and it's like, oh shit, there's a massacre or something went wrong.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
You don't.
That's even scarier.
Much
It's like,
scarier.
where the fuck is all the
What
people?
happened?
Yeah.
And isn't it much more iconic to have
100%.
this empty
Yeah.
London?
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't logistically make all that much sense, it's
Right.
way cooler.
And also the music
Oh my
is
God.
great. And it picks up tempo as Jim starts picking up pieces of paper on the steps and putting them in his bag. Which I didn't really
quite
know
get that.
what the papers were, but
It looked like money.
Oh, that's right. He
Yeah,
did. Yes.
it's
He
money.
did pick up money. Which honestly,
No, yeah.
I would
And I get
too.
it, there's nobody around, but what if you run into somebody, or what if something happens and then now you have all this money?
No, for
Who's gonna
sure.
question you where you got it?
I thought
It
it
doesn't
was
matter.
I thought it was what we're about to see in a second. That's what I thought he was picking
and
up.
also he needs to buy more Pepsi.
Yes.
And yeah. He finally finds a newspaper declaring evacuation and huge letters across the front. And oh my God, I would be so scared.
That would suck.
But finally, and this is what I thought he was picking up, he comes to a structure that is completely covered in handwritten flyers and notes of goodbyes and notices for missing family members. And you can tell by his face that he's finally like, fuck. Like something really horrible happened.
It's very emotionally effective.
Yeah.
Thinking of all the people that left those notes. I did read on IMDb that this was filmed around the same time of the September 11th attacks.
Man.
Oh shit.
And so when it was released, people were like, how dare you use that imagery? And they were like, no, we made this at the time it happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything about trying to pull on that. If anything, he was pulling from other. And that's the other thing. This movie pulls from so many different world conflicts and tragedies as a form of, I guess, inspiration that adds to that human element of this movie, because it's not a matter of, oh, no, we're just making a bunch of stuff up. It's like, no,
Right.
some of this stuff happened.
Yeah.
It didn't happen like this, but it did.
Yeah. But as Jim walks away, the camera zooms in on the picture of a boy, of a child. Finally, Jim comes to a church, and when he enters, we get this like amazing shot from behind this huge cross looking down on him. It's striking. He goes up the stairs and sees written on a wall in huge letters, "Repent, the end is extremely fucking nigh."
Now, that's amazing, but who the fuck did that?
Yeah.
How does it goes back to my whole thing about people like writing shit on blood and on the walls. It's like it's a great visual, but it makes no sense.
Not really. But still, it is a great visual. But from his view on the second floor, illuminated by the stained glass window, we see that the pews are completely full of dead people.
So before this, if I were Jim, I'd be like, wow, I've been wrong my entire life because this is the fucking rapture.
Yeah.
But then when you see all those bodies, you're like, shouldn't that be a pile of clothes? Because
they should have been raptured out.
So I guess it wasn't the rapture, and this is proof.
Jim says hello, which is the only thing he's said so far. And two men immediately pop up from the pews and look at him.
They look very excited to see him.
Yeah, they do.
Like
Say, oh, pizza's here.
Yeah. No, for real.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that all of these dead bodies and whatnot, they were actually, there's no dummies here. These are all extras. And they were
just
all
laying down.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
They were.
I wonder how much they got paid for that.
I know how much they got paid for that.
Oh.
It's going to blow your mind. They were volunteer college students. I read on IMDb, but I also heard that they were paid each with a cup of tea.
Get the...
The budget wouldn't allow.
You get to say that
Right.
you're 28 days later.
I'm
I
fine.
was zombie 23. I'm at the bottom.
I will gladly drink that tea.
That's amazing. Suddenly, there's a pounding on the door down the hall from Jim, and a priest bursts through the door, stumbling and coughing. He's making guttural noises and twitching, and he comes at Jim. And Jim's like, oh, hey, you know. Jim backs away and eventually hits him in the head with his bag of soda cans and knocks him down.
Power of Christ compels you.
Yes. He runs away as the priest starts crawling after him. But as he runs downstairs, we see more people from the pews rise up and run after him. As Jim sprints outside, we see someone dash out in front of him, like across the camera. But it's getting dark now, and the people from the church are gaining on him as he's running. We suddenly see someone with Molotov cocktails taking out the pursuers as Jim yells for assistance, and they're fucking nailing
They
him.
lit them up.
Yeah.
Them motherfuckers.
Fucking bullseye.
Yeah.
And then they
And-
were just running on
Yes.
fire, too. It's like,
That's
holy
even
shit.
scarier. And excellent stunt work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to call that out too.
The Molotov slingers are two masked people who catch up and run with Jim. The masked saviors set bombs and hide with Jim on the side of a building. We get quick shots of the empty city before a gigantic explosion takes out cars, windows, and the gas station pumps.
There were so many cameras that captured this explosion. I didn't know if it was real or not, so I had to look it up, and it was real. They really did
Man, it's
explode
huge.
a petrol station. And I read on IMDb that they signed all the permits, they got all the permissions to do this, but they didn't alert the police. It was unintentional. But the police were like, oh shit, and they sent like crews. And they already had a crew there to put it out and everything.
Oh my gosh.
And so IMDb said it took like 4 hours for Danny Boyle to straighten it out.
Oh, man.
But this explosion cost £250,000.
Oh, my
Damn.
God. Well, it looks great.
It really
and
does.
It's huge.
And it's surprising for this movie for it to have that.
Yeah.
Because this seems like a very
Like low-key, yeah.
Exactly. So like, oh, we're also exploding shit.
They prompt Jim to run as he begs to know what's going on. Now they lead him to what looks like a convenience store, like kiosk.
Yeah.
And they close a gate behind them. Now, through a gas mask, one of them tells like a dad joke.
Yeah.
And
Hey, I'm sorry, but that would put me at ease if I were Jim.
Yeah.
I'd be like, we're going to get along just fine.
but he takes off his mask and is annoyed that Jim didn't laugh. And he tells Jim that he's humorless, so he and his companion, a woman, will get along just fine. But the woman asks who he is, immediately identifying that he is not a doctor, but a patient.
Right.
And he explains that he's a bicycle courier and he was hit by a car while he was making a delivery and didn't wake up until today.
See, and that's something that I'm glad that they explained a little bit. Not only just, how he got in the hospital, but as he's walking on a bridge earlier, you see he has a giant scar on the side of his head.
Yeah.
So I was
and half of his head is shaved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, how serious was, why was he in the
What's
hospital?
wrong?
So that's good. I like that.
Well, also that it's like something that would have like hurt him.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I broke my arm and I didn't wake up.
Yeah.
Why were you knocked out?
Yes,
Stop. But they all introduce themselves. This is when we properly learn Jim's name. The man is Mark, played by Noah Huntley, and the woman is Selena, played by Naomi Harris. Selena explains that it all started with rioting in small villages, and then it was the cities. And it was obvious that it was an infection. When they tried to evacuate the cities, it was just too late. The infection had already spread everywhere. But the news had broadcasted that there was infections in Paris and New York, but then the news stopped.
This hitting a little too close to home for everyone.
As I was watching it, I was like, maybe this isn't the time to do this.
Started to sweat a little bit. I was like, ooh. Yeah, they're like, we tried lockdowns, mask mandates.
It didn't work.
But the mask became a political thing and nobody wanted to...
But that would be a hell of a thing to learn, huh? Just to everybody's gone. There was a virus that wiped everybody out or whatever. It was like,
horrifying.
We're the last three?
Yeah,
horrifying.
I just woke up, dude. Give me some coffee first. Fuck.
They tell him that the government, the police, the military have all fallen. There's no electricity. There's no TV. There's no radio. Mark tells them that he's the first uninfected person that they have seen in 6 days. When Jim asks about his family, they tell them that their families are dead and his will be too.
So just a quick question here. I know that this is 28 days after the chimp incident.
Yes, the chimp incident.
Yes. But how long was Jim out?
I don't know.
I would like to know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim wants to leave now and check on his parents, but Selena tells him that if he leaves, he's not making it back because nobody does. Mark breaks down the rules for him. Never go alone unless you've got no choice, and only travel during the daylight unless you've got no choice. He tells him that they will take him to his parents tomorrow, tosses him some Maltesers, and tells him to eat.
Got a great diet in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the whole movie.
Just snacks. That's all you get, right?
Hey, at least we have something to look forward to, right?
As promised, they take him to his parents' house in the morning. Selena tries to tell him that if anyone is in there, and he cuts her off, and he's like, I understand. And it's like, fuck, I would not even want to walk in there.
No.
But they go inside, and the house looks nice and neat, and Jim climbs the stairs, but covers his nose and mouth against the stench. And, we all know what's coming. Mark tries to stop him, but he won't be stopped and goes into his parents' bedroom. In the bed are his parents' dead bodies holding each other. And on the nightstand are pills and wine. In Jim's mother's hand is a picture of Jim as a child. He takes the picture and covers them up with their blanket.
So this is a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very heavy. It's hard to watch, but they could have put some pants on.
Well, I mean, I think if you're gonna kill yourself, I think that's the last. You know
Well,
what I mean?
at
It's
least
like
be
I don't
comfortable,
know.
man.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I came into this
Not
world.
Yeah,
I'm going in the afterlife
Yeah, I'm
with fucking
going out,
jeans
yeah.
on. It's not
come
happening.
and eat me. I want to sit here naked.
But on the back of the photo is written, Jim, with endless love, we left you sleeping. Now we're sleeping with you. Don't wake up. And Jim weeps. Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, at least his parents didn't turn, but that's still pretty sad.
I feel like, I don't know, because in most zombie situations, they would have busted in there and found them as rage filled.
Yes, and he would have had to put them down or resented
Exactly.
someone for putting them down.
Yeah.
But, and Selena does point out that he should be grateful that they went peacefully.
Now, there was something that was cut. According to the short list, there was a subplot, I guess, with Selena's family, where you kind of learn about her story a little bit before the situation. And her story is that she had to kill her entire family.
Holy shit.
It started with her parents, and then she went to go check on her little brother and found that he was also infected. So her saying that seems like a little nod to this thing that was cut.
And if honestly, that makes more sense for her character as we go on.
Absolutely.
For her viewpoints and the way that she conducts business. Like that makes sense. But Jim is not grateful that they went peacefully. Mark, though, tells him a story about he and his family trying to buy their way onto a plane, having an idea to go try to get on a plane and get the fuck out of here. And he says apparently 20,000 people had the same idea. He was holding his sister's hand and ended up losing grip on her. And at this point, realizing that the soft floor that they were walking on was actually bodies that were being trampled. There were infected in this crowd and everything got real bad real fast. He climbed on top of a kiosk and saw his father's infected face and says, Selena is right. You should be grateful. Yeah. Which I'd be like, fuck.
Like, can I handle, like...
Can I grieve?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Can you give me 5 minutes to grieve?
I feel like, I don't know, it's always weird to me that the knee-jerk reaction to something tragic happens and someone's like, I've also had some tragedy. Yeah. It's like, can this person please have their own
sit in this for a second.
Give them a second.
Yeah. Although I can see the value in, I know this is bad, but it could be so much worse.
True.
But you got to give people a minute before they're ready to hear that. And this would have been a good place for Selena to tell that backstory.
Absolutely.
But she changes the subject completely and says that they don't have time to go back to that kiosk. They have to stay here. Jim offers them his room upstairs, but it's like, doesn't it stink up there? But Selena's like, no, it's safer for all of us to sleep here in the living room. The next thing we see is a sweeping shot of the city as the sun goes down. Now,
bad transition.
Odd choice.
Yeah.
Odd choice, because in the upper left corner, we see Mark's mouth, and then we pan up from the city to the living room. It was just a weird choice.
I think it would have been a lot cooler if they did that same thing, but Mark's jaw isn't hanging over the entire proceedings.
When I was watching it for the show, and your sister were you doing homework?
Yeah.
And I had told her, I said, why is his face like that?
I was like, just wait.
Wait a minute.
It'll make sense.
It's distracting.
No, because it looks like a mistake.
Yeah.
And then it pans up and you're like, oh, okay. But for a second, you're like, what happened?
I get it. But I mean, you're right. They could have got that same effect without having his face there for what, like 10 seconds or something?
It's a
long pan, dude.
But Mark and his jaw and Selena are sleeping, and Jim is pacing around in the kitchen. He lights a candle and is looking at photos of his parents and his mom's book of recipes. And it's really sad. He thinks of his parents as being in the kitchen with him, and we're kind of seeing it play out like it's a home movie.
It's very effective, and it's like the saddest thing on the planet.
It's really,
Earth.
really sad. But suddenly we see someone outside of the house, and one infected person busts through the window, and another one drops in from the skylight in the ceiling.
It's like, was this a planned thing? Fucking Kool-Aid Man?
What did it? Is it Jim's light? Jim's candle?
Yeah, I think so.
But they were like right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like when the light's on at Krispy Kreme and you're like, hell
shit.
Yeah. They tackle Jim, and Selena and Mark snap into action and take them out. Mm-hmm. Jim recognizes them as neighbors, and Selena is not here for the nostalgia or the anything. She wants to know immediately if he was bitten or if he got any blood in his mouth. And he says no, but Mark is cleaning his arm, and we see an open wound that is just pouring blood.
It looks brutal.
Yeah, no, it's bad. He keeps trying to wipe it, but Selena notices, and he's like, wait, but she immediately fucking chops him up with her machete. Like, immediately.
Yeah, didn't even think about it.
No.
I thought at first that she was like trying to cut his arm off, and then I was like,
oh
no, she's like cutting his head off.
No, you're done. Yeah. You are no longer with us. But then after murdering, I mean, how long have they been traveling? We don't know.
Yeah.
But no, nothing. She calmly tells Jim, go clean up, go get dressed.
Well, they said that you have what, like 10 seconds?
Well,
yeah.
But she says more will be coming soon. And she starts going through the cabinets for supplies and pulls out a Pepsi.
It's like, Mark may be dead, but at least we have this tasty
refreshing
beverage.
Ice cold. Fucking 80s rock starts to play.
In the next scene, they're traveling at night. Jim and Selena are walking through the city because the house obviously is no longer safe.
No.
But Selena explains that she killed Mark because she could see by his face that he knew he was infected.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, John Paul, they have between 10 and 20 seconds to kill someone before they succumb. And she makes it clear that she will do the same to Jim in a heartbeat.
That's
like,
not very long.
cool.
I mean,
No,
no.
not at all. That's why she was like, bye, Mark.
Would you keep going with her?
What's my other option?
Part of me would think about going it alone.
I wouldn't. I'd stay with her.
I'm not gonna lie.
I just got to make sure I don't get bit.
Yeah. Hey, well, I mean, I guess she's putting you out of your
cut me
misery.
up,
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe I would go.
But she says that Mark was full of plans, but obviously plans are pointless. Staying alive is as good as it gets. Jim stops her and points out an apartment balcony that has blinking Christmas lights on it. They make their way to the apartment building, and inside there is a mountain of shopping carts. They climb the shopping carts onto a stairwell. They're climbing the stairs, and Jim is exhausted. Selena's not. I guess she got that nap in.
No, I can relate to the exhaustion, man. I'm not. That's the
Stairs,
last thing I'm
dude?
looking forward to in the apocalypse is
It's not the
Is the
zombies.
elevators
It's
going
the
up?
cardio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
not ready.
But Jim finally admits that he needs a break, and they sit down. He finally says that he has a headache. And Selena's like, why didn't you tell me? He's like, I didn't think you would give a shit.
Yeah, and I don't.
I wouldn't think she'd give a shit either.
I thought you'd kill me.
Yeah.
Right, headache.
Yeah, got the perfect thing.
That's slowing me down with the fucking headache. But surprisingly, she tries to take care of him. She says that all he's had is sugar and he's crashing. So all she has for it is painkillers and more sugar. So she's trying to help him out. That's what she offers him a
pulls out-
Pepsi.
Yeah.
I was gonna say she pulls out another Pepsi. I'm like, how much did Pepsi pay you, Danny Boyle specifically?
Enough to pay for that explosion.
There you go. But as she's trying to administer this to him, they hear screeching on a lower floor. We see some infected enter the building and start climbing the carts to get out of the
right.
stairwell.
No, yeah. I read on IMDb that all the infected are played by athletes.
They have to
shit,
be.
yeah.
Because the running, the fucking climbing, they are
No, they're
otherworldly.
beasts, yeah.
Yeah.
But Selena and Jim run. Selena fucking leaves him in the dust, and he's begging her to wait for him.
Well, she told him.
She did.
but
She did.
It's like my head's killing me.
All I've had is
Wait,
sugar,
yeah.
Selena. At the top of the stairs is a man in riot gear blocking the way, but he moves aside and tells them to go to apartment 157.
It's the only time that's not been a frightening sight.
No, it's still frightening, but it's like, okay.
Oh, well. It's better than an infected.
Yeah.
But they go by and the infected slam into the riot shield, and Jim stands by with the bat. Selena runs to the apartment and bangs on the door. But the man in the riot gear makes short work of the infected. Like, he doesn't need any kind of assistance.
Nope.
Jim joins Selena as she screams at the girl inside the apartment to open up. And the girl just asks for her dad. Now, at this point, and we went over this in Annabelle, I don't know what this thing is called, but we see the infected fall through the stairwell.
As he's falling through the stair hole, he's like breaking up on reentry. Like, it's really bad. And that thing's just called the stair hole now.
Yeah.
That's
It's the
just
stair hole. Tell me a better word for it, please. At Blood and Smoke, at the Pod Mortem.
any
Tell me,
architects out there. We can,
what is the stair hole called? The man says to let them in, and the girl inside immediately opens the door. They all go inside, and we see the blinking Christmas lights in their window. The man looks horrifying as he takes off his riot gear and his ski mask, but then he smiles brightly and introduces himself as Frank. He's played by Brendan Gleeson. Mad Eye Moody.
Yeah.
He's fucking great.
he just seems like the nicest, most genuine.
He's everyone's
dude.
dad.
Yes.
Like, you love him.
No joke. I was like, that's dad.
Like, I had the same thoughts.
Yeah,
like,
he reminded me of our dad.
100%. But he also introduces his daughter, Hannah, played by Megan Burns, the girl who wouldn't open the door.
Yeah.
But he really seems genuinely happy to have them there, calling for celebration. All they have is creme de menthe, but he goes and gets
That's
it.
better
and
than nothing. I thought they were going to say, all we have is mom's creme de menthe and this Pepsi.
Yeah.
Ooh, Pepsi, please.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Hannah's a little less inviting than Frank is,
Very
but
fair.
they all cheers with the creme de menthe and they cut the Christmas lights. Later, Jim is shaving and cutting himself.
Yeah.
Why is he shaving? There is no water. There's no shaving cream.
Maybe he's always clean shaven. In the coma, he was like, I got to get rid of this.
The world is done.
Yeah, I
don't
need
know.
water.
I've never had a beard.
Did you really just say after the coma, he's like, I got to get rid of this?
Yeah.
I would have just kept the beard. That's my apocalypse aesthetic. I'm not fucking with it. Especially with no water.
Yeah, oh no.
No, but he cuts himself.
And he's like, he's in a lot of pain.
But Frank comes to the bathroom and explains the procedures of dumping the poop bucket out of the window in the morning.
I could never. I would just be holding it in. I would just be really
For
uncomfortable.
eternity.
Yeah.
Not with all that Pepsi and the Maltesers, man.
That's true.
Frank offers Jim and Selena the guest room, and Jim tells them that they're not together and he'll take the living room. He goes into the living room to talk to Selena, and Selena ascertains that Frank and Hannah need them more than they need Frank and Hannah.
Frank literally just saved your life.
100%.
So at this point, I was like, why would she even say that? I was a little annoyed at her as a character because I'm like, what have you done for them?
She doesn't care what she's done for them.
So you're just like, I'm better than you, man?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
I'm faster than you. You're older than me and you have a kid, so you care about that kid. You're not going to... She's eyes on the fucking prize.
Well, that
she's
prize
eyes on the
is
prize.
Dog shit.
I'm staying alive.
All right, Bee Gees.
But Jim says that they're good people, and Selena's like, that doesn't matter. What matters is if they're going to slow you down, because if they do, she'll leave them behind in a heartbeat.
She's just making it known.
Yeah. Jim is like, well, I wouldn't leave them behind. And Selena's like, well, that's going to get you killed. As she leaves to go to sleep, Jim thanks her because he knows that he would be dead if it weren't for her. And she's just like, sure. You saved my life. All right.
Yeah.
In the morning, Frank takes Jim to the roof, which he has covered in buckets. Jim notes that they're all empty, and Frank says this is because it hasn't rained in 10 days. And he levels with Jim. They can't stay here.
Just a couple of things here. One, I love the Dutch angles. Mm-hmm. I think they're really, really cool. The thing is that oftentimes I find them pretentious, but in this movie they feel like surveillance, like you're like a fly on the wall.
Yes, like voyeuristic
exactly,
almost.
And it just fits so perfectly. The second thing is that I read that Danny Boyle got into an argument with the people on set during this scene because he told them to get 100 buckets for the rooftop. And they did, and 100 buckets from really far away looks like 10 buckets. And so he's like, no, we need 1,000 buckets. And so they got 1,000 buckets.
Oh my God.
And that's why some of them are like fucking laundry baskets.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not going to catch any water.
I wrote that too. I was like, there's laundry baskets with giant holes in them. What the
I kind of like that though.
Yeah,
because
they're desperate.
It's like whatever we catch a drop of water, we need to put it
It was just funny. I was like, what are you going to get out of that?
But later on the balcony of the apartment, Frank shows them a radio broadcast. This broadcast is given by soldiers. It is a recording, but it tells them to go to the 42nd blockade, promising salvation and the answer to infection, which my ears would perk up at that.
No, my ears
I'd
would
still be scared.
Yeah, my ears would perk up, but only in that I think that this is a cult. Salvation is here.
Yeah,
nope.
The message is pretty creepy. But
we'll rock it in this apartment until we can't anymore.
Until we die of thirst.
Yeah, hey, we all got to go sometime.
But Frank's like, we can take 2 or 3 days to get up there. And Selena's like, hold on, what's this wee business? Frank confesses that sound carries in their apartment, and he heard what she said last night. And she's right. They do need them more than they need Frank and Hannah. But if they left alone and something happened to Frank, Hannah would be alone.
Right.
Selena's not trying to hear it. She points out that it's just a recording. Those soldiers could all be dead by now. Frank says that they have to go to be sure. Selena says that they could die trying. Hannah speaks up that they could also die here.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that they're wrong. They all need each other equally. And the cities clearly aren't safe, but this might be.
She's got the right mentality, but I'm still thinking culty shit, man. I'm not.
Yeah, but I mean, the pull of more people, I think, is undeniable.
I mean, depending on who you are.
At this point, not in real life. Fuck that.
Yeah. Staying home.
We're dying of thirst. It's fine. I'll be fine. The next thing we see is everyone in Frank's cab loaded up with supplies and leaving. As they go, they pass rubble and dead bodies. They come to a tunnel, which is the direct route to where they need to go. Jim loudly protests that they should stay in the open, not underground, even if that means going the indirect route.
100%.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Selena and Frank do not, though, and they do go into the tunnel. Now, there's a huge group of stopped cars, and Frank tells them to hold on as he drives over the pile of cars.
That was a lucky shot.
Yeah.
Yes. The car is shaking and jostling, and soon everybody is laughing. And we get these moments of them in this horror and misery, like finding some humanity and finding some humor. But this is just it was a very cute, like, 2 seconds of them laughing as the car's going crazy.
For me, that says a lot, again, about the human condition.
Yes.
They're in the worst possible situation, but they're still finding some levity here.
Even if it's for a second.
The perseverance is admirable.
Definitely. But as soon as they drop down back to the road, they get a flat.
Short-lived.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not really somewhere you want to be
No,
when
no,
shit's
no, no,
going
no, no.
down.
Good Lord.
And even Jim's like, isn't this? It's like, all right, Jim, we know.
Don't need that.
Wow.
You can
You didn't want to come in here. They all get out to change it, and Jim hears something, and everyone pauses as the sounds get louder. Suddenly, hundreds of rats rush at them, and poor Hannah is the one actually under the car getting, changing the flat.
No, yeah, that sucks. But I would be grabbing a few of those rats because that's dinner.
At this point.
Yeah.
Rat and Pepsi.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Don't tell Pepsi.
Selena realizes that the rats are running from the infected that have entered the tunnel. They heard all that jostling and they were like, I'm sorry, what? We see their shadows and hear their screeching. And Selena, Jim, and Frank physically lift up the car because they don't have time for the jack as Hannah is replacing the flat with fucking lightning speed.
She's incredible.
She's a beast.
I have changed a flat in calm conditions. This is, and that sucked. But this, good Lord, I couldn't even imagine.
No, she's a beast. I think she's, 15?
Something like that.
Yeah, she's a kid.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Most kids suck in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
This kid, good
Well,
job.
and
Yeah,
there's
no,
more.
yes.
I want to talk about that a little more later on.
Okay.
But in the nick of time, thanks to Hannah, they get in the car with the flat changed as the infected slam against the car. Now Jim leans out to taunt them as they drive away, and it's like, don't do that, Jim.
This is usually where the car would break down.
Yeah.
Or they snatch him out.
Exactly, yeah.
They're fast as hell.
Yes. Yes.
But the infected give up. So it's like there's still some intelligence there. They're like, they're in a fucking car. We're not going
They
to
start shaking their fists.
talk about fast food. And now for my favorite scene in the film.
Yes.
Selena tells Frank to stop at a store. They cautiously go inside and find it fully stocked and completely empty of infected. They go on what I can only describe as a delightful shopping spree as AM 180 by Granddaddy plays. Perfect song,
Man.
perfect scene. I love it.
It's so nice. And they didn't need to grab that rat.
They did.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Just hold on a little bit
Exactly.
longer. But we have Frank educating Jim on alcohol until Jim gets bored and wanders away. Selena, we finally see her let her guard down and get excited over Terry's chocolate oranges, which
Yes.
same. But they're all happy. They leave with full baskets. Frank leaves his credit card on the counter. And it's just...
Well, you don't need it.
No,
that's an incredible moment.
I love it so much. But they drive away, leaving their 4 empty carts behind them. And we see them go past what looks like a painting of a field of flowers.
I was going to ask about that. It really did look like almost stained glass.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is my favorite scene in the
It's
whole
incredible.
movie.
What snack would you grab?
Terry's chocolate orange. Pepsi, duh.
Oh, of course.
right.
Who's paying us? Who's paying the bill?
Right. So after the amazing shopping spree, they run out of gas and stop next to a truck at a rest stop. They all get out except for Hannah. as per Frank's instruction.
Yes.
Frank siphons gas from the truck, which just looks awful.
I bet that tastes gross.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he's siphoning it from the truck. Does that car, I would imagine the truck runs diesel.
I never
Right.
thought of that.
You know, does their
No,
car also?
I have no idea.
I never thought of that.
I don't know. That's just speculation. I know
No,
jack
but-
shit about cars, dude.
Well,
That's, you know.
it shouldn't. But,
Right?
Yeah.
Jim goes inside because of a sign boasting cheeseburgers. Now, I don't know if he's actually going for the cheeseburgers or if he's just trying to get away from Selena for 5 minutes.
Do you hear what he says when he's
Yes.
heading inside? He goes, it's like going on holiday with your fucking aunt.
Yeah.
It's like, that's specific.
She's like, Jim, where are you going?
Yeah. He's like, cheeseburgers. Fuck.
Please. But as soon as he walks inside, he's immediately struck by the smell. There are pots of old coffee, plates of old food, and dead people everywhere, including a woman and her baby lying on the floor. Jim calls hello, as he is wont to do.
His catchphrase.
And a kid comes at him pretty viciously. And part of me wondered, I couldn't find any confirmation, but was this the kid that they zoomed in on his picture at the beginning?
You know, that would be very interesting.
Because
I didn't
they
even
zoomed
think about
way in on that boy.
I
there's a
didn't even
moment
think
of
about that.
recognition almost.
Yeah,
between the
I
two.
don't know. That's my
No.
own speculation, but I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah.
He laments what he has to do, but this boy is a monster.
Yeah.
But well, and
I'm licking my finger, checking the wind, and I'm hitting a home run with this kid. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Jim holds the kid down with his foot as the kid is fighting and screeching, and the child yells, "I hate you."
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's
didn't
the first
understand
time
that.
we've heard any of these infected really talk.
Now,
What is this, Day of the Dead?
Yeah, that kind of confused me some.
Yeah. But the thing is it's a rage virus. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but none of them.
No.
Don't you think any one of the other ones would have been like, "I'm gonna kill you"?
Yeah,
Or,
I
you
don't know.
Why didn't
I
you
just thought
talk
that was
to me?
very odd. Why didn't you
Yeah,
talk
why
to
didn't you
me?
talk to me?
And Jim
How rude.
specifically, or
Yeah.
society, or
But-
get some help.
Jim swings. The next thing we see is Jim walking outside, wiping off his bat, and he refuses to tell Selena what happened. Frank gives the can to Hannah to fill up the cab. Now, this is what I have wanted to talk about. There is such subtlety in this of Frank having Hannah change the flat,
Yes.
of Frank having Hannah drive the car over, Frank having Hannah fill the car with gas. It's like he's been teaching her how to survive, and now
Wow.
I might not make it. Let's put these skills to the test.
And she's doing a bang-up
She's
job.
doing a fantastic job, but I feel like any other movie would be like, all right, now we practiced for this.
Yeah.
Do you remember how to fill up the, it's so subtle that if you're not paying attention, you could almost be like, why is he making that kid do everything? But he clearly said, if something happens to me, she's going to be alone. He's preparing her, which
Well,
I thought was really cool.
Right.
To me, and on that point, I think it's kind of speaking to their relationship as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long the mom has been out of the picture,
Yes.
but they have a very clear partnership.
Yes.
They work
Yeah.
together and they work well together.
Yeah, they do. They stop for a picnic, and we get another moment of them letting their guard down while they're eating. Frank notices a family of decidedly not infected horses running around and points them out. And I was just so struck by how soft and green the grass looked.
Yeah.
Oh, it
'Cause
looked great.
our grass...
What grass?
This is Paradise City where the grass ain't green, but it is crunchy.
I noticed that too. I was like, "Damn, that grass looks good as shit."
Where the-
I
was
know.
like, yeah.
It's so soft. Jim and Selena go for a walk, and she admits that after seeing Hannah and Frank together, she was wrong to think that staying alive is as good as it gets. And Jim agrees that she was wrong, and she
Yeah.
kisses his cheek, and it's a very sweet moment. Frank says it's late and they're going to have to sleep here.
I would have ruined that moment. I'd be like, are we dating now?
What are we? Does this mean we're boyfriend and girlfriend?
I need to know. I need to update my Facebook.
Yeah.
Let's make it official.
Yeah.
That night, no one is able to fall asleep outside except for Selena. So Jim wakes her up to ask how she fell asleep.
What a jerk.
Fucked
For
up,
real, yeah.
dude.
I'd be pretty
They're
pissed.
not dating anymore.
But she's really cool about it and says that she has Valium and gives Jim the bottle. And Jim says that they can have two apiece, but Frank won't take any and he won't let Hannah until he relents and lets her have half of one. The next thing we see is Jim waking in a panic. He's alone. We see sheep moving in a disturbing way on a field, and he's screaming and crying. And we finally see that Jim is just having a nightmare. Frank soothes him and he goes back to sleep.
Frank is the best.
He's just the best.
It's very sad here because Jim lived this before, basically.
Yes.
So it seems like they're saying his fear right now is to be that again.
Losing them. Yeah.
Well, he tells him, "Thanks, Dad."
Yeah, he does.
That's true.
He does.
That's so sad. God damn, this movie
I know.
tugs at your heartstrings.
But later, Jim wakes up as he did in his nightmare, but to them honking the horn. He's literally, get up. He sleepily gets in the car, lamenting that he slept through breakfast, and they hit the road. We get shots of them driving down empty roads, and they're listening to that radio broadcast again.
It's the same broadcast.
Yes.
I'd be like, dude, Frank, you got any...
Turn it off.
Got any Radiohead or... Like, you gotta listen
Any new radicals, Frank?
Well, maybe they're just trying to see if it'll change, or
Oh,
you know
that's
what I mean?
true.
If it stops broadcasting, then it's like, oh shit, something happened.
But it is boring.
It is. No, yeah, I agree.
They finally come to Manchester, and the camera pans up to show that the entire city is burning. It looks crazy.
Yeah.
Before, I was reading on IMDb that when they did this shot, if you look closely, you can see police lights from them having to stop traffic
Oh my God.
from them going into the shot. But I tried to look for it and I couldn't really see it, but it says on there
It's like people use a magnifying glass, man.
Yeah.
It's like, just let the movie. God damn.
I thought that was funny. But
No,
the
it's-
shot is cool. Though.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
shot
no, it looks great. But they finally arrive to the 42nd blockade. Everything looks deserted. They get out of the car. They come to like a little mess hall tent, and it's also deserted, and the food is just left out. Selena is uneasy and says that they need to go. Frank angrily says no and insists that they check the vehicles. He checks around, and the others are just kind of standing there watching him. Selena says that they should go again, and Frank angrily snaps, "Go fucking where?" Which he has a point.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
This was hope. Like, this was the hope that they had, and it's gone.
And it speaks to him as a character because honestly, he's had such a level head this entire time. You can't do that forever.
Well, it's like he was like, we'll make it there. It'll be fine. They're going to take care of us. They have the answer. And
now
it
it's
all
just-
has come crashing down. But he sits alone and trying to gather himself, it seems like. And a crow is above him, perched on the body of a dead soldier. And the crow begins to caw. Crow? Caw. Crow's yelling. Frank insists for the crow to move, and when it doesn't, he kicks the structure that the bird is sitting on.
God.
We fall as the drop of blood from the soldier's body directly into Frank's eye, and it's the worst moment of the whole goddamn movie.
No hyperbole.
Hannah comes over to check on him, and Frank already knows. I mean, he knows.
Yeah.
He apologizes for losing his temper. When she starts to walk away, he calls her back to tell her that he loves her. As she walks toward him, kind of laughing, like, what are you talking about? He tells her to stay back and keep away from him. And he repeats this more and more aggressively before physically pushing her away. Hannah falls to the ground and Frank backs away, yelling and flailing as he succumbs to the virus.
So quick.
So quick. Selena holds Hannah and tells Jim that Frank is infected and to kill him. Hannah screams in protest, but as Jim raises his bat, soldiers show up and shoot Frank. It was like, now y'all want to fucking show up?
Why didn't you make an appearance? You didn't hear
I
Frank
know.
yelling at Selena
If you
earlier?
would have been here, he never would have been upset. He never would have kicked the fucking thing.
And also, why get so angry, dude? You know, so a bird's laughing at you. Birds laugh at me all the time. Don't get so angry, man. He would have been alive, is all I'm trying to say.
I understand the frustration, though. You're trying to save, your daughter and then these people that are with you, and
I know.
then the bird's just there laughing
Damn it,
at you.
T.
It's like,
Just
fucker.
like, what the fuck is your problem?
Frank falls dead, and they continue to shoot, telling the others to stay away from the body. Music swells as the soldiers stand over Frank, and Hannah and Selena watch on. Next thing we see is the cab going down the road as a military vehicle follows it. Jim, Selena, and Hannah ride in the back of the military vehicle. A soldier reports on the radio 3 survivors, 1 male, 2 female. He repeats that. They ride in silence. 2 soldiers move fencing out of the way as they pull up to a mansion. As they arrive at the mansion, Major Henry West, played by Christopher Eccleston, comes to greet them, but Hannah does not acknowledge him. I mean,
come on.
Give her a fucking minute.
And I'm sorry, but no condolences?
Not at all.
Like that.
He was clearly with them.
Yes.
They're crying.
It's infuriating to me.
Major West tells them that they have clean sheets and hot water for showers. This dude really harps on the hot water that they have. Like, I think later he calls it the first step towards civilization, which is a lot.
I mean, he's not. Well, how's the water pressure, though?
It can be hot, but
yeah, I mean.
Hannah begins to cry as they all go inside. The next thing we see is Jim's ass as he's taking a shower.
Dude, literally in my notes, I wrote, that's about enough of Jim's ass.
I read that Cillian Murphy is completely nude or shirtless for 30% of this film, which seems like a lot.
That's a bit much.
I mean, it is.
Through the window, Jim can see soldiers joking around and driving Frank's cab in a circle, which would really fucking piss me off.
It's like a fucking frat house situation.
I would be very upset by that.
Yeah.
In a bedroom, Hannah is sleeping as Jim and Selena discuss their fucked up situation. Selena finally breaks down and cries. Jim says that Hannah's strong and she's going to cope, but Selena says she doesn't want her to cope. She wants her to be okay. She was okay when she had Frank, and that made Selena and Jim okay too, but now everything is fucked. Jim kisses her, and she kisses him back, and it's passionate for a moment before Selena just gets up and fucking leaves.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that.
I mean, think about it. She's finally letting her guard down and getting close to these people, and one of them is dead. Why the fuck would I want to fall in love or get close to this dude?
No.
I mean, I get it.
So they're not dating?
Change your status back.
God damn it, this is getting...
Just put it's complicated.
All right, fine.
The next thing we see is Jim talking to Major West outside. And Major West says that they must be disappointed after hearing the broadcast. He says they do have the answer to infection, though, but it's not what he imagined. And he says that they're lucky because the fire in Manchester caused all the infected to flee and the surrounding areas are just teeming with them. But they're safe here. And then he rubs Jim's head like he's a child before walking away.
I was confused because I was like, you guys look about the same age. So what's with the hair tussle? It's like you, all right, champ, we're going to save you.
Maybe.
Yeah, don't do that.
But they could have gone to high school together.
Yeah, it's like, well, even if
you graduated the year before me.
Even if he's just a little older than him, it's like, don't do that.
It was pretty,
don't do that.
Played off pretty condescending to me.
Yeah, don't do that.
But Major West takes Jim on something of a tour as he explains the safety of the flat field, which is equipped with landmines and tripwires as well as fences. No infected are going to get in here without them knowing about it. Major West says their real duty, though, is to rebuild and start again. He takes him inside to see the boiler that gives them the hot water. Thank the Lord.
So proud.
Yeah, and they go into the kitchen where the cook... I use the term loosely.
Yeah.
Jones, played by Leo Bill, is whipping up a surprise.
Could not look happier.
He's very happy
he was
with
born
his little
to be
apron.
in the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah.
After the charming tour, Major West takes Jim to the backyard to meet another soldier named Mailer, played by Marvin Campbell. Mailer runs toward them and Jim jumps back before the soldier is stopped by a chain around his neck. Major West explains that Mailer was infected 2 days ago. They knocked him out, chained him, and kept him alive to learn about the infection. Mailer projectile vomits blood, and Jim is like, has he touched anything?
Yeah.
They like to do that a lot.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Well, Major West says, in a way, he's taught him that he'll never bake bread, plant crops, or raise livestock. I could have fucking told you that, Major. But he's futureless, basically. He does say that Mailer will eventually teach them how long it takes the infected to starve to death.
Now, that is important.
It is.
But at the same time, this is a genuine cause for concern.
Do you guys remember when they had the zombie tied up in the prison on Walking Dead?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That happened before this, right? Nay? Or could it have been?
Same time.
Yeah.
Same time.
Okay, good. Yeah.
The thing that I thought was weird too, though, how did the little boy talk to him? But
I don't know.
Infected,
I'm not sure about
but now
that either.
this guy can't be like, unchain me, bro. What are you doing?
Was that a plot line that was dropped? Like, forget it. Forget we had him talk. But the other thing is that West closes the door and leaves Jim outside.
Leaves Jim outside. And then Mailer rushes at him again. And then Jim's like, nope, and goes back inside. I will say, though, and I did want to mention the actor's name here because the look on Mailer's face as he looks at Jim, he looks so fucking miserable. Like, it's so sad. Like, I know this is a rage virus, but the misery in his face was just really, like, striking to me. But the next scene is dinner. And Major West enters the dining room, and the men are singing, waiting for their food. Selena, Jim, and Hannah are seated at the table. Major West unveils that among their usual canned food, Jones has made omelets in honor of the guests. They all watch as Major West toasts to their new friends with a big bite. He promptly spits it back out. The eggs have gone bad, and Jones thought that extra salt would cover the taste. Wouldn't it make them sick?
Yes. The taste, doesn't, it's what comes later.
He's like, the food poisoning is so going to be worth it. Like, it's going to so be worth it.
Well, right, guys?
Those good salty omelets. But it did not cover the taste.
It did not.
Major West orders that they get rid of it and asks Hannah if she knows how to cook, and Hannah ignores him. The men express disappointment until one optimistically points out that they'll have eggs again once everything goes back to normal. But another soldier, Farrell, played by Stuart McQuarrie, speaks up with the bleakness. Humans really have only been around for a blip, he says. And if we were to all die out, that would be a return to normalcy, which I don't think is what that soldier meant.
In all fairness, Farrell's not wrong.
Farrell is 100%
he's really
right.
He's speaking to my nihilistic,
But Major West shuts him down. In a really belittling sentiment, he says that all he can ever remember seeing is people killing people, and that's all that is happening now. So we're already in a state of normalcy, which is not true.
But it's a great commentary because he's saying, how is this any different? And the thing is that we've grown to consider this normal. Political strife, violence, etc. But just because now it's monsters at your doorstep, that's suddenly fucking different. I'm like, that's a pretty...
It's a good point, but again, that's not what anybody meant.
Oh, no.
That's not the conversation.
Everybody's taking their own liberties with what...
Open for interpretation. Suddenly we get a shot of an infected person running to the house.
It's so random.
Yeah,
I was like, did anybody else see that?
It's very jarring.
And didn't he just say they were safe?
Yeah, he did.
He said we would know.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess
they know in
do
a
know.
minute.
Yeah.
But back at the dinner table, they're sitting in an awkward silence until Selena points out to Hannah that she's not eating. When she says she doesn't want to, Major West tells her that she must, which I'd be like, can you stop fucking talking to me, dude? Hannah said she doesn't want to eat. She wants to bury her dad. One of the people that you're talking about?
Yes.
Which, Hannah. Again, a little compassion. Major West just looks down. He has nothing to say.
He's got nothing for that. We got hot water.
Yeah. Are you going to take another bath?
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's an explosion, and all the soldiers spring into action, but Major West remains at the table. Just like, great leadership.
Lead from behind.
Yeah. All of the outside lights go on as the men yell, running out into the yard. Outside, there's a bunch of infected coming.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they smell fresh meat. I don't know, but...
They smell that omelet.
Yeah. Jim...
Is that salt?
Yeah, damn.
Yes, please. Jim watches pretty horrified from the window as the men shoot all the infected. Some of them a little too excited.
Yeah.
But the men finish them off and come inside to see Selena standing holding her machete. Corporal Mitchell, a real piece of shit, played by Richie Harnett, is smoothing his hair back and telling Selena that she doesn't need that anymore. He's here to take care of her
He's
now.
Trying to put on the old Wiggum charm, but it's
falls flat.
So did he get hard from killing the zombies?
Jesus Christ.
He kind of seemed like it. I'm not even going to lie. But he takes her machete, and when she tries to get it back, he grabs her. Now, Jim goes after Mitchell, but Mitchell just knocks Jim fucking flat.
Yeah, it's like a judo thing he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
I had to rewind it because I was like, did he pull a gun on him? I
Yeah,
was like, what happened
they're all
here?
military.
True. But in response to this, Farrell knocks Mitchell down and in return is scolded by Major West.
Yeah. It's a big situation. There's a lot of moving parts here. But at one point, after the tussle kind of ends, Major West goes up to Mitchell and it's very close to him and very quietly. he says, "Slow down." And it's like, what the fuck? And if I'm Jim or Selena, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't want to find out what the fuck that means.
We'll take our chances in the mystery wall.
Exactly.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
But Major West orders Mitchell and a few men to re-secure the perimeter and tells Farrell and the rest to clear the bodies off the lawn, which is riddled with landmines. But okay.
I guess they know where they are?
I guess. Major West gives Selena her machete back and apologizes, but she takes it and leaves. Major West looks at Jim and he's like, let's go have a drink.
Yeah.
He leads Jim to a room and begins pouring drinks for them. Jim explains that they're grateful to be here, but if they're going to stay here, and Major West interrupts and he's like, who have you killed? Which I feel like I've heard this conversation before.
It's not like that was a prerequisite to joining a group
not
or
at all.
anything, right?
Anyway, whatever. I'm sure it's nothing.
No big deal.
He says he has to have killed someone or he wouldn't still be alive. Jim admits to killing the boy at the rest stop, and Major West understands, but it's very, I understand what you did. Now understand this. It's not
and there's
an altruistic understanding.
Yeah.
It's there's strings attached. He says it was kill or be killed and that Jim killed the boy for survival. Now, he confesses that he promised his men women. He found Jones 8 days ago with his gun in his mouth, and he was ready to die because there is no future. So Major West set the radio broadcast and moved them to this mansion, and he promised them that women would come because women mean the future. And I think we all know what we're getting at here. Jim immediately leaves in disgust. And part of me feels like Major West was like, he'll get it. Like, he's a dude.
Yeah.
He'll understand.
It's like he was trying to appeal to him in a way.
Absolutely.
And it's
you
not
you
gonna-
wouldn't have killed that boy under normal circumstances, but
Well,
these aren't
we-
normal
yeah.
circumstances. And we normally wouldn't do this, but now we gotta.
Very interesting
Stop.
thing about this scene is that they filmed a version of it and then the actors hated it. And so they got together with Alex Garland, the writer, and they rewrote the entire scene with him.
I wonder what the first one was.
I do as well. I wonder if it was more blatant because you notice that Major West he almost frames it in a way it's disgusting and fucking horrible, but the way he says it is in a way that almost he thinks Jim can digest
we gotta
it.
do that. He's pouring him a fucking drink.
Exactly.
Like, look, let's talk man to man about this. Like,
So I wonder if it was more blatant before.
and then there's something a little bit later too that kind of
Fits that?
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Jim is not even pretending to be cool with this.
No.
He runs down the hall yelling for Selena and Hannah. He goes into the room and tells them that they have to go now. There's a split second of what happened, but I really appreciate that they're like, okay, we got to get the fuck. Like, it's us. It's still just the three of us, even though we're with all these people now.
Yeah.
They run downstairs, and just before they reach the front door, a soldier hits Jim in the face with the butt of his rifle, and everything goes black. Jim wakes up, and Selena is holding Hannah. Farrell is pointing his gun at the men, and all of the men are pointing their guns at Farrell.
Farrell is the only one with a moral compass, human decency.
He's demanding that they can't keep them here, and they can't do this, but they push him out of the house.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I was talking about. Major West leans next to Jim on the floor and says he wants to give him a chance. He can still be with them, but he's not going to let him go. When Jim doesn't agree to join them, Major West tells the men to take Jim as well. So it felt like he's like, look, just it's cool, dude. Like, we have to do this. Just suck it up. That's what it felt like.
And it fits better with the first conversation that they had.
Yes.
Along those lines.
If that
was what, we're just fucking speculating, but.
Later, Jim and Farrell are chained to radiators. Farrell is ranting about how they don't need to start the world over again because the other side of the world is fine. Everything is still going. He also mentions his favorite Simpsons joke, which is pretty great.
It's a pretty good joke.
Women and semen
Pretty
don't
solid
mix.
reference.
It
Treehouse
is.
of Horror, I believe.
He says that the major is insane for saying that this is just people killing people and that they were quarantined. Now, I did want to mention very quickly, toward the beginning when Selena mentions that there were reports of infection in Paris and New York before the broadcast cut out. That was originally where they were going with the story, was that this was a worldwide infection. And as they continued filming, they were like, no, it's just England. They quarantined England. Everything else is fine. So Farrell is completely correct. If they can just hold on, everything else is fine. If they can just hold on until the infected starve.
But
you don't
they're
need to fucking repopulate the world. It just makes it so much worse. But anyway, Mitchell and Jones come in with guns and say it's time to go. Later, they're marching Jim and Farrell through the woods, and Jim falls, and Mitchell takes this opportunity to put his boot on Jim's neck and tell him that he's going to have the black one and he's going to make her squeal. Farrell tells Mitchell, this is going to end badly for you, which Farrell's great. I feel like he almost doesn't get enough screen time.
No, he does not.
Jim gets up and they walk until they come to an area littered with bodies. Farrell says to do him first, and Mitchell comes at him like he's going to stab him with his bayonet. And Jones is like, no, just shoot him. Farrell spits in Mitchell's face, and then Jones shoots Farrell. But I guess Mitchell attacks Jones for almost shooting him.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to stab him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like when you get a kill stolen in Call of Duty, I guess. I don't know what the fuck.
That was mine.
And they're treating it the way that they're acting like a goddamn video game anyway.
Yeah,
so.
no, they really are. But Jim takes his opportunity and takes off. They realize he's gone and they run away searching for him, but Jim was hiding right there amongst the bodies.
So did he just leap into the into the mound? And also, whose body? What are all those bodies?
I wanted to bring that up too. Is that people that they've taken over there and that they didn't agree with?
Because they marched them directly there.
You know what I was wondering is they took the mansion. What if there was already a group hanging out there and they just fucking slaughtered them?
Or anyone that didn't agree with them, they just took them out there.
I mean, who knows? Although there were women in the pile. So that doesn't really fit in, I guess.
So maybe they're infected.
I'm very confused.
Maybe they're the infected that they cleared off the lawn.
Maybe.
Who knows? With them, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But while they're off looking for Jim comes to like the wall, the barrier, and jumps over. And when he lands on the other side, he's shirtless. And I was like, what the hell just happened? But
like my natural habitat.
I was like, what the fuck? But Mitchell and Jones spot Jim's shirt on the wire lining of the wall, and Mitchell's like, oh, he's as good as dead. But Jim runs through the woods, falls, and then looks up at the sky and sees a plane going by. I'd be like, am I hallucinating?
Yeah, I think I'd lost my mind, all that damn candy and soda.
Yes.
But I read that Danny Boyle taped that like in his backyard, a plane through the trees.
That's so cool.
They just put it in.
Right before this, when they're looking for the dude's like just shooting into the trees or into the bodies. Like, what are you shooting at?
They do a lot of blind shooting.
I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
Well, they just seem like they don't care. We'll hit. Sure, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Add them to the pile.
Yeah.
Back at the mansion, Major West tells his men that they're going to make the women more presentable. So it's just they've gone full evil. He says to pick from the clothes of the former lady of the house, which...
Again,
what?
What are you talking about?
Selena begs them not to do this to Hannah, and Hannah is just sobbing. And I feel like her so staunchly wanting to protect Hannah, not only because she's a decent fucking human, but that lends credence to your backstory of that she couldn't protect her brother, and now she can protect this like surrogate sister.
Sense.
Like she's trying to, you know.
Because she really tries to take care of her.
Yeah.
In the bathroom, the next thing we see is the men forcefully taking Selena's shirt off as she is fighting them. Suddenly, she stops fighting and kisses one of the men, Clifton, played by Luke Mabley, and she tells them that they'll get dressed up all nice if they'll just leave the room because that's only polite. Smartest thing she could have done. Yeah. I don't think that it even would have occurred to me.
And her performance is just, we need to call that out.
She is so amazing.
Great in this movie.
She's fantastic. But the men they leave, and Selena runs to her bag, which is like a little mini pharmacy. She takes out.
So was she a drug dealer before?
No. Oh, no, wait. I didn't even say that. She was certified, I think, as a chemist. Right. She tells Jim, a pharmacist.
That. Yeah.
But she takes out pills and she tells Hannah to take them.
That might be how she knew that Jim was a patient and not a doctor.
That makes sense. Damn it, that's smart. Yeah. See, this movie's so smart. They don't hit you over the head with it. Okay, anyway. But Hannah asks if the pills are going to kill her, and Selena says no, they're just going to make you not care. Clifton bursts back in, throws the pills, and grabs Selena. A siren from the 42nd blockade goes off, and Selena immediately assumes that it's Jim.
Why, though?
I don't know.
She goes,
Jim. Maybe just hope.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they got nothing left.
Well, if it was an infected, they wouldn't have done it.
True.
No, the infected
because
are gonna...
the next shot, he's like,
he's
fucking cranking that thing.
Outside, it is now pouring rain. Back inside, Jones tells Major West that they thought Jim would be dead since he went over the wall, as all the men are rushing downstairs to go to the 42nd blockade. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Jim is working that alarm.
So did the rain look fake on Jim's face? Or was it just, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's like hyper, really, I don't even know.
I don't know if they filmed it with a different camera or something.
I don't know.
Because the rain looks real.
It looks crazy.
Everywhere else, but for him, it looked very strange.
But the men arrive and, like you said, John Paul, just start shooting blindly. The camera pans and we see Jim hiding behind one of the vehicles. It's like a really cool shot. Mm-hmm. And as a soldier with a very unfortunate haircut, I don't know. It seems like a prank. They're on some boys like will be boys bullshit. That's what it looked like to me.
Shaved his head or something. I don't know. It looked weird.
They need a cook and they need a barber.
But once he comes around, Jim is gone. And the soldier glimpses him above now. Jim's a fucking ninja now.
He is. He studied the infected. And
as the soldier climbs the ladder, Jim hits him in the face. And Major West later finds him dead, sitting up in a vehicle. He tosses him out like trash.
Wow.
And tries to start the vehicle, but sees that the wires have been cut. Infected people start advancing on the vehicle, and Major West shoots them and runs away in the rain.
Some naked.
Some naked.
Don't know why.
I mean, they were probably like, there's been penis, there's been man ass. We got to give the guys
if we
something.
don't, we're going to be really upset. Just odd.
Back at the mansion, Selena and Hannah are dressed up in the dresses that the men have picked, and they're sitting there. Clifton blows a kiss at Selena, which
just gross.
Stop, dude. Back outside, Jim stands above the backyard of the mansion, and with the gun that I'm assuming he stole from that soldier that he killed, he shoots Mailer's chains, breaking them.
I wanted Mailer to give like a that'll do nod or something. Since they can talk.
Yeah, I know, right? See, again.
Yeah.
Only when they're young. You know, kids learn second languages very easy.
You'd be like, thanks, Jim. Runs inside.
Back inside, Jones thinks he hears gunshots and Mitchell goes to investigate. Hannah tells Selena that these pills are working and she doesn't feel sleepy. She tells Jones that the others have been gone a long time. What's he going to do if they don't come back? She thinks they've been killed. She's like, let's just be clear.
I was like, Hannah, you legend.
I know, dude.
I love the way that she's just like, oh, your friends are fucking dead.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Jones gets upset and tells her to shut up. And even Selena's like, Hannah.
Yeah.
But she reiterates, they're dead and you're going to be next.
Love it.
Suddenly, we see a flash of lightning, and Mailer is standing in the window that Jones is looking out of. Mailer busts in and takes Clifton out. Selena grabs a stoned-ass Hannah, and they run. Jones fires wildly again until his gun jams. Mailer vomits blood onto Clifton's face and just abandons him. Jones drops his gun and runs, and Clifton succumbs immediately. Selena and Hannah get to the front door just as Mitchell and another soldier are coming back inside. Jones runs by screaming, and Mailer follows close behind him. It's like Scooby-Doo.
It really is. It tells the whole story. You don't need to ask any questions or anything.
Mitchell sends the other soldier after them and forces Selena and Hannah back into the house at gunpoint. In the kitchen, Jim is watching through the window as the soldier that Mitchell sent after them points his gun at Mailer. Suddenly, Clifton attacks that soldier, and he and Mailer take the dude out. Yeah. Jones is cowering and crying, hiding in a cupboard.
This is when the best song in the film starts to play.
Dude.
It is so goddamn good. I think it's John Murphy is the composer. Fucking
it's
incredible.
Amazing.
A lot of people consider this, like, I guess, the theme song of 28 Days Later, and they could not have picked a better song.
It's amazing. Selena and Hannah are forced upstairs, but when Mitchell stops to tell another soldier to guard the stairs, Hannah just wanders off.
Yeah.
Just into the darkness
She's
of the
high
hallway.
As fuck.
She is. Selena screams after her. Back in the kitchen, Jones finally leaves the cupboard and runs through the bloodstained kitchen. Going for the door, he runs directly into Jim, who impales him with the bayonet.
A little poetic justice for Farrell.
Very much so. But Jim leaves just as Clifton and Mailer come in. Major West returns just in time to hold Jones's hand as he dies. Back in the bathroom, Hannah retrieves a photo of herself with her parents from their belongings. Jim calls out to her as he races upstairs. Hannah manages to lift herself and hide behind a standing mirror before Clifton comes in. Now, Clifton seems mesmerized by his own reflection.
Yeah. He's like, is that what I look like?
Yeah.
Damn.
What the hell happened
What's wrong
to
with
me?
my eyes?
Ooh, this is bad. Yeah.
But he finally turns and leaves. Jim is trying door after door looking for them, and the music is really ramping up. And it's
So good.
just phenomenal. He goes into a bedroom, and when he barricades the door with the bed, he finds the stair-guarding soldier hiding. He says he doesn't have any bullets, and he begs Jim not to leave him. Jim's like, Leah.
Yeah.
He opens the window and hops the fuck out just as Mailer and Clifton enter and take that soldier out.
I'm not gonna help you.
Fuck
No.
you,
You were just
dude.
trying to kill me, you and your buddies, and then
Yes.
hurt my friends.
Yeah,
Come
he's
You got me so fucked up.
He's right
that.
there in the corner.
Hey, Mailer.
Right here, guys.
Through a window, Jim sees Mitchell dragging Selena. He opens a skylight and drops in. And Mitchell's telling Selena that it's just them now. They're going to find a nice place and live happily ever after. It's like, fucking
No.
stop. Jim is not fucking here for it. He drops in and rushes them. He bashes Mitchell's head into a wall and sticks his thumbs in his eyes until he is dead.
It is so brutal.
It's
but
the most brutal death that we see, and it's not doled out by an infected.
nobody deserves it more.
Oh, 100,
No, yeah.
100%.
And I read that Danny Boyle filmed Jim in these scenes as he had filmed the infected before. So it's almost demonstrating his change in a way
Wow.
of his behavior. Because it
Well,
is a drastic change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he was very timid at the start,
Yes,
and now
yes.
he's just fucking murking fools.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well-
and I have more to say about that later, too.
Okay.
Selena cries and grabs her machete. She is crying and shaking, ready to strike him because, as we said, this is infected level violence
Yes.
that Jim is inflicting.
Yeah.
And he comes closer, and when she raises the machete, he tells her that was longer than a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That my heart. It hit my
Yes.
heart. Yeah.
She realizes he's still himself, and she kisses him. He tells her that it's not all fucked. There is a future, and he's seen it. It's going to be okay. We see the door open, and Hannah comes in. She hits Jim over the head with the glass, and she says she thought he was biting her. And he's like,
Yeah.
I was kissing her. He goes, are you stoned?
Dude, after,
Well, yeah.
Very funny.
after everything that we've just been through, we needed that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Get a little romance and a little comedy. You're like, thanks for not making me miserable.
Yes, but now back to it because they hear growling.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They run outside into the rain and open the doors of the cab to find Major West hiding in the fucking backseat. He tells Jim that he killed all of his men just before shooting Jim in the stomach. Hannah takes off in the cab, backing up to the mansion. Mailer, fucking on cue, breaks the back window and snatches out Major West. Selena, he's like, I've been waiting fucking 2
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
to do this shit. Selena helps Jim into the car as Mailer murders Major West. Hannah sees that the gates are locked, and Jim tells her to just fucking do it. She clicks in her seatbelt, and she does. The frame freezes on Selena and Jim's screaming faces as they are thrown forward, and everything goes black.
Very odd freeze frame here.
That was almost the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was Fox. They went to Fox, and Fox gave them more money to film proper endings.
I'm really glad that they
Yes,
did.
because it's like, "Wah!"
Yeah.
and then just freezes. You're like, well, what happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
We get another card 28 days later. Jim is being pushed into the hospital on a gurney. Selena's readying a syringe and performing very aggressive CPR. We see the white word hell on a green field.
Yeah.
And then Jim wakes up. He is in bed with a fresh bandage on his stomach, and he notices that his curtains are gone. We see Selena on a sewing machine sewing her red dress from that night to a big piece of white fabric. We see Hannah lying sheets down onto the grass outside. We get a POV shot of a plane flying over the countryside. It flies over 2 infected men who are starving to death, and we see one of them die.
So it takes 28 days.
It takes... It's 28 plus 28.
56.
But Jim walks past a bunch of canned food, and when he sees the red dress, he tells Selena, you looked all right in that. Hannah bursts in and says it's coming. They grab the fabric and run outside. They lay the last big piece of fabric into place just as the plane begins to come toward them. Their sign reads, "Hello." They stand on it and wave at the plane, and the plane immediately makes a U-turn. Selena asks, "Do you think he saw us that time?" Hannah smiles. Jim looks hopefully up to the sky. And that's the end.
He looks so hopeful. And also, the ending was shot differently than the film. I read that the ending is shot on 35 millimeter film as opposed to all the digital.
It doesn't look so grimy.
No, it doesn't. It looks like the world has changed. They're hopefully coming back to some normalcy, some peaceful
I read
lives.
that, I think it was Roger Ebert said that the film was so bleak that at that end he expected the plane to make a U-turn and shoot them.
You know, honestly,
But we need it. We need it. We needed that win.
It would have been too bleak.
Yeah.
We needed a very happy ending, and I'm glad we got it.
Speaking of endings, very quickly, I wanted to go through because there were 3 alternate endings.
Right.
One, besides the freeze frame one. One was them rushing to the hospital, and the bits that we see in the hospital are from that ending.
Okay.
They rush to the hospital and they lose Jim. He dies on that table, and Selena and Hannah leave together to try to start over.
Yeah.
Which, oh my God.
No, I don't like that at all.
It just hurts. The second one was basically the ending that we got, but Jim is gone. He died off screen, and it's just Selena and Hannah laying down their sign and waving at the plane.
Just without Jim.
Just without Jim.
You need Jim.
You need him. He earned it.
Busted his ass.
Lastly, and this is the craziest one, was, and obviously this didn't get filmed because they realized that it made no sense.
Okay.
They make it to the 42nd blockade and the soldiers have died. The blockade is blocking that research center from the beginning.
Oh.
They go inside and someone is holed up in there I forgot to mention, they have Frank. They didn't kill him. They just knocked him out and tied him up. He's still infected. They knocked him out and tied him up. They bring him to this facility. They see somebody inside. For 2 days, they beg for their help. You know, he's a scientist, whatever. Finally, after a whole bunch of crap, he tells them that he does have a cure to infection. That part of the broadcast was true. The cure is to, and it reminds me of a Dale Gribble joke, but he has to drain all of Frank's blood and replace all of Frank's blood with all of someone else's blood. And so the end of the movie was Jim turning infected as they swap Frank's blood for Jim's blood. But Danny Boyle was like, we've established that it takes 1 drop of blood. So were they going to scrub out every vein with bleach? How the fuck? He goes, this makes no sense.
Hey, I heard from some asshole that bleach is...
for fuck's sake. But saying all that, obviously, we got the best ending. But I will say, what did you guys think of 28 Days Later?
I loved the movie. I thought it was great. I can't remember the last time we watched it, but
it's been a while.
It's been some time, so there was a lot of stuff that I forgot. But watching it, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is good. You know what I mean? You remember it and it comes back to you, but it's not as fresh, so it's still like, oh shit, you know, it's still shocking. But I thought this movie was great, and I enjoyed them filming it that way from the beginning. Why, like you said, it looks grimy, or because it does. It makes you kind of like, is this a bad dream, or it's like, what the fuck? Like, it puts you in his position and you feel what's happening. But I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really good.
I agree. I love this movie a lot. I feel like it's such an interesting take on the zombie subgenre, and it has to be one of the first zombie films with a fast zombie.
Yes.
I can't think of...
I think it's the first one I remember seeing.
I mean, at least, I'm sure some film historian knows better than me.
Yeah.
But it's just such an interesting story. It's a very human story. It has a lot to say about humanity. It is very bleak.
Yes.
But as much as I appreciate that, there is a lot of hope in this story. And so, I mean, it's just very well-rounded, well-written, well-shot. The music, oh my God.
The music.
Just fantastic.
Obviously, I love it. I've loved it since the first time I saw it, and I only appreciate it more. And as I was doing my research for it, and I can't remember where I read it, but somebody had pointed out Jim's subtle quest for a father figure. throughout the film.
Okay.
He first goes to the priest, and then it's Frank, and then it's Major West, and then finally at the end we see him become his own father figure and make that transformation that we talked about, from the timid Jim to I gotta fucking handle business. And
right.
I love Selena, strong woman, strong black woman.
Hell yeah.
She's fucking badass. Frank, man, he's everyone's dad. It's just fantastic. And I mean, if you want to be an asshole and point out logistics about how was there electricity in the supermarket, or Jim's yelling down the streets of London, but nobody came out then. I mean, you can, there's shit that you can nitpick, but as a whole, man, even the stuff that doesn't necessarily make perfect sense, it's either so beautiful or so important that it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love 28 Days Later, I think was the question. So I guess that brings us to ratings. I just went on a spiel, so I'm not going to do that again. But this movie is, to me, it's amazing. And no, it's not perfect, but it was ambitious, and it was a different take that we really see borrowed again and again after. So without, freaking out about it all over again. On a scale of 1 to 10 delightful shopping sprees, I'm going to give 28 Days Later 9 out of 10 delightful shopping sprees. And I will now open up the floor to you gentlemen.
Yeah, I did enjoy this, watching it for the show, because I was able to pay attention and kind of see what was going on. And I enjoyed a lot of what this movie did, thinking about it and us talking about it. And you're right, there's a couple of things, whatever. But I mean,
but it's I don't even care.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's like we talked about him being shirtless or him whatever a lot. But I mean, if you think about it, your main concern right now is to stay alive or to figure out what's going on. I mean, you're wandering around, you don't got a shirt on. Where the hell is everybody? My concern isn't
I don't care
I need a shirt.
Like.
Yeah, I need to find other people. I need to see what's happening. The same thing with the soldiers. They deserve to die. Their whole goal was...
And I hope they burn in hell.
Well, but it does show that when things get desperate, people do crazy shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Not saying that any of it was, okay, because none of what they were planning on doing was okay.
Absolutely not.
But the thing is that people will do that in real life.
Definitely.
If something happens, I need to kill my neighbor so that I can eat their food.
And the thing is that doesn't that make it way scarier that it is?
That's way scarier.
Yeah, and that's kind of, the point I'm trying to make is that that's real shit.
Yeah.
If something happened right now, it would be scary because people would think like that. I need to take from my neighbor to take care of me and my family. So we need to band together as a community to try to keep our neighborhood safe. It's, hey, I'm going to take your wife and your food, and there's no place for you here. Instead of, hey, let's stick together, it's, I'm going to take what's yours because I need it. And like I said, yes, they deserve to die, and I'm glad. But this movie does a lot more than what I remember it doing.
Right.
And so with that, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it 9 delightful shopping sprees out of 10. And it was, though, it's a lot of, like I said, because you can see this happening.
Right.
Definitely.
And it's not, like you said, it's not all happy endings, but it gives you hope to, maybe they did make it. Maybe something better happened.
They made it. God damn it, they made it.
But I'll pass it to you now, Travis.
Obviously, I agree with everything both of you guys said. I think that for me, as far as zombie films are concerned, this is like a top 5, maybe even a top 3. They really were the first film that kind of set the groundwork for me as far as it's not always the monsters that you have to worry about.
No, it shined a whole new light. Yeah.
And so I can go on and on about how much I enjoy the acting, the story, the music, etc. But I think that's the real thing about this movie for me, is that it has that thing that really so many people bit off of. And I know they weren't the first. Romero had that idea as well.
Yeah, but this was definitely a resurgence.
Yes. And that, of course, has to be respected. But it's just one of those movies that I think everybody should watch.
For sure.
It does the subgenre proper, even if some people don't consider it a zombie film proper.
Right.
It really takes on those tropes and it does something really neat with them. Mm-hmm. But I digress.
Give us a number.
Yeah. So out of 10 delightful shopping sprees, I'm going to have to pull the hat trick here.
Hey.
And give 28 Days Later 9 delightful shopping sprees out of 10.
Ding, 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 ding.
It's been a while.
It has.
And I do want to say, because I know after this we're done, Cillian Murphy, I don't know if you hear this or not, but I love you. Peaky Blinders was amazing. I know we already talked about how, everything else did, but
yes.
I love that show. And he does fantastic in that.
He's the best.
He's a great actor.
Yes. Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate 28 Days Later, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at @ThePodMortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at TravisMWH. And remember, there's more to being alive than just staying alive. Until next time.